The crystalline spires of Station Helix Prime gleamed against the void, each surface polished to mirror perfection. Ambassador Quarth 9 adjusted his ceremonial robes and surveyed the opulent diplomatic hall with satisfaction. Purple light cascaded from bioluminescent panels, casting elegant shadows across marble floors that had cost more than some planetary budgets. Tonight was perfect, absolutely, ridiculously perfect. The galaxy's most civilized species mingled with practiced grace. Tall, ethereal Vorthak delegates glided between clusters of chittering Nexus traders, their translator implants humming softly. The serpentine Corvash ambassador coiled near the refreshment displays, sampling fermented algae with obvious pleasure. Even the notoriously antisocial hegemony representatives had attended, their environmental suits gleaming under the ambient lighting. Quarth's mandibles clicked with pride. 3 cycles of planning had produced this gathering, this monument to diplomatic excellence. Every detail had been considered, every protocol followed to the letter. The dress code alone had required 47 revisions to accommodate the various anatomical requirements of attendees. Then the main doors exploded open. Not literally exploded, Quarth reminded himself, though his nervous system suggested otherwise. The massive portal simply opened, with force, with purpose, with the kind of casual disregard for ceremony that made his antenna twitch. Captain Maya Blackwood strode through the entrance like she owned the station. The conversation died instantly. 500 of the galaxy's most sophisticated beings fell silent as they processed what they were seeing. Quarth's secondary brain struggled to catalog the visual data while his primary brain simply screamed. She wore bones. It's not decorative bone-carved jewelry, not ceremonial fossil fragments. Actual, genuine, recently harvested bones woven into what could generously be called a dress. Rib cages formed the bodice. Vertebrae created elegant shoulder pieces. What appeared to be an entire skull served as a rather striking belt buckle. Scales from something massive and predatory provided texture along the hemline. The ensemble clicked and rattled with each step. Lady Vex of the hegemony actually fainted, her environmental suit clattering against the marble. 3 Corvash delegates immediately began religious chanting. The Nexus traders huddled together, their usual commercial confidence evaporating like morning mist. Quarth watched this human creature survey the room with obvious amusement, and one thought dominated his consciousness. What kind of insane species sends someone to a diplomatic reception dressed in the remains of their enemies? Maya smiled, revealing those disturbing flat teeth humans possessed, and approached the nearest refreshment table. The galaxy, Quarth realized with growing horror, might not be ready for humanity. Quarth's claws trembled as he activated his personal datapad, accessing the classified files on humanity's first contact. In 3 months. 3 months since these bipedal nightmares had announced themselves to the galaxy, and already the diplomatic corps was developing stress-induced molting. The initial reports had been promising, almost boring in their mundane normalcy. Humans appeared to be another standard carbon-based species from the galactic rim, recently achieving faster than light travel. Their technology seemed primitive but functional. Their social structures indicated typical pack hunting origins. Nothing particularly alarming. Then came the first diplomatic exchange. Quarth scrolled through the incident report, his mandibles clicking in remembered frustration. The Proxima Council had invited human representatives to a formal gathering on Kepler Station. Standard procedure: introduce the newcomers to galactic civilization, establish basic trade agreements, perhaps sign a few non-aggression pacts. Simple, elegant, civilized. The dress code specification had been crystal clear: formal attire appropriate to your species' ceremonial traditions. Every civilization understood this. The Vorthak wore their ancestral silk wrappings. The Corvash displayed their family crest scales. The Nexus traders polished their ceremonial shells to mirror brightness. Captain Maya Blackwood had arrived wearing what appeared to be the entire skeleton of something that had very much not wanted to die. "Oh, this old thing?" she had said when questioned, her tone suggesting the casual dismissal humans seemed to apply to everything. I was told to wear something that represented my cultural background. This seemed appropriate. The recording showed her gesturing at the various bones with obvious pride. The ribcage is from a Terran grizzly bear. Took 3 days to track that particular specimen. The shoulder pieces? Siberian tiger. Beautiful creature, really. Shame it tried to eat my research team. Korth paused the recording, his secondary stomach churning. The casual way she discussed predator hunting, as if it were a recreational activity rather than a desperate survival mechanism. The skull here, Maya had continued, patting what Korth now realized was some sort of massive carnivore cranium, belongs to something we call a saltwater crocodile. Nasty temper, incredible bite force. He made excellent boots afterward. The assembled delegates had sat in stunned silence as this human creature catalogued her kills like a shopping list. The hegemony representative had actually requested immediate medical attention. 2 Corvash diplomats had filed formal complaints about traumatic cultural exposure. But what truly disturbed Korth, what kept his antenna twitching even now, was the growing pattern in subsequent human interactions. Every formal event, every diplomatic gathering, every trade negotiation featured humans wearing the remains of something they had personally killed. Ambassador Torres at the Mineral Rights Summit, shark tooth necklace and ray leather gloves. Commander Singh during the territorial boundary discussions, what appeared to be an entire wolf pelt draped casually over standard military dress. Dr. Martinez at the Scientific Exchange Conference, a lab coat decorated with various snake skins, each one apparently representing a field research encounter gone wrong. Korth's people, the mighty Zerethians, had conquered 12 star systems through superior firepower and tactical brilliance. They prided themselves on being the apex predators of their region of space. Their ceremonial armor displayed the house crests of defeated enemies, that's technological trophies representing military victories achieved through advanced weaponry and strategic superiority. The humans, apparently, just walked up to things with teeth and strangled them with their bare appendages. The implications were unsettling. And now Captain Blackwood stood in his perfectly planned diplomatic reception, wearing bones from creatures Korth couldn't even identify, calmly selecting appetizers, as if she hadn't just traumatized half the galactic community. Something was very, very wrong with this species. The ceremonial gong announced High Commander Zek-Talon's arrival with the subtlety of a supernova. 2 meters of scaled muscle and contained violence. He represented everything the Azerethian military machine had perfected over 3 centuries of conquest. His bioarmor gleamed with adaptive camouflage patterns, each plate earned through personal combat against enemy commanders. Energy weapons hummed at his sides, their power cells casting ominous blue light across his facial ridges. He surveyed the diplomatic gathering with the casual arrogance of someone who had personally overseen the subjugation of 12-star systems. Then he saw Maya. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees as Zek-Talon's optical sensors focused on the human delegate. His neck frills expanded to full threat display, a biological response that had preceded the deaths of countless enemy warriors. The bone dress, which had merely shocked the other species, appeared to physically offend every fiber of his being. What, he rumbled in perfect galactic standard, his voice carrying the authority of 1,000 military victories, is the meaning of this costume. Maya looked up from the refreshment table, a small appetizer halfway to her mouth. Oh, hello there. Love the armor. Very intimidating. This? She gestured at her bone ensemble with the casual air of someone discussing weather patterns. It's formal wear. The invitation specified ceremonial attire representing cultural background. Zek-Talon's mandibles ground together with audible friction. You mock the traditions of civilized species by wearing the corpses of beasts as decoration. Actually, Maya replied, taking a delicate bite of what appeared to be fermented algae paste, these aren't beasts. Well, technically they are, but they're all apex predators from my homeworld. Each piece represents a personal encounter where diplomacy wasn't really an option. The High Commander's combat instincts, honed through decades of warfare, were screaming warnings. Something about this small, soft creature radiated danger in ways his tactical computers couldn't quantify. But pride, that fatal flaw of apex predators everywhere, overrode caution. "I challenge you," Zek-Talon announced, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent hall, "to trial by combat. Your species has insulted the dignity of this gathering through your primitive displays. Honor demands satisfaction." Maya paused mid-chew, considering this development with the same attention she might give a mildly interesting weather report. "Combat trial? Here? Now?" "The station maintains a standard combat arena for such matters," Zek-Talon replied, his confidence absolute. "Single combat, personal weapons only, to first yield or termination." Around the hall, various species began calculating their options. The hegemony delegates started filing toward the exits, their survival instincts overriding diplomatic curiosity. Several Nexus traders immediately began establishing betting pools, their commercial nature asserting itself despite the circumstances. The Corvash representatives coiled together, whispering prayers to their ancestral spirits. Korth found himself caught between conflicting loyalties. His species demanded he support their military champion, the embodiment of Zerethian superiority. But something in Maya's casual acceptance, the way she treated Mortal Kombat like an inconvenient scheduling conflict, it suggested this encounter might not proceed according to established precedent. "Sure," Maya said finally, finishing her appetizer and brushing crumbs from her bone dress. "I've got about 20 minutes before the trade delegation meeting. That should be plenty of time." The arena awaited. The combat arena hummed with energy barriers and medical sensors, its polished surfaces reflecting the growing crowd of spectators. Korth positioned himself in the observation deck, his datapad already recording what promised to be either a brief demonstration of Zerethian superiority or a complete diplomatic catastrophe. High Commander Zek-Talon stood at the arena's center like a monument to military evolution. His bioarmor rippled with adaptive camouflage, responding to environmental conditions with microscopic precision. Energy weapons mounted on his forearms cycled through targeting sequences, their power cells casting lethal blue patterns across the arena floor. Defensive shields flickered around his form, capable of deflecting small arms fire and explosive charges. 3 centuries of military advancement gleamed in every component. Maya entered the opposite side of the arena and immediately began undressing. The bone dress came off piece by piece, revealing standard-issue human military fatigues underneath. No bio-armor, no energy weapons, no defensive shields, just basic fabric, some sort of primitive projectile weapon, and what appeared to be a collection of sharp metal implements attached to her belt. Zek-Talon's optical sensors focused on her equipment with obvious disdain. "That is your combat gear? Fabric and crude metallurgy?" "Pretty much," Maya replied, beginning what could only be described as a stretching routine. She bent forward, touched her toes, rolled her shoulders with casual efficiency. "Though I prefer to think of it as keeping things traditional." "Traditional," Zek-Talon repeated, his voice carrying the kind of contempt usually reserved for primitive civilizations. "You face a warrior who has conquered star systems with technology your species cannot comprehend, and you bring fabric." In the observation deck, betting pools were reaching astronomical proportions. The Nexus traders had established odds at roughly 8,000 to 1 in favor of the Zerethian commander. Several species were already placing bets on how quickly the combat would end, with estimates ranging from 30 seconds to a generous 2 minutes. Maya finished her stretching routine and performed what appeared to be a weapons check, examining her primitive projectile launcher with the same casual attention a technician might give a malfunctioning data terminal. She tested the weight of several metal implements, selected one that seemed to meet her requirements, and tucked the others back into her belt. "Hey," she called out to the observation deck, her voice carrying clearly through the arena's acoustics, "does anyone know if the cafeteria stays open after combat trials? I'm probably going to be hungry afterward, and those algae appetizers really didn't do much for me." Korth's mandibles clicked involuntarily. Either this human possessed suicidal confidence, or she knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't. The arena's energy barriers hummed to full power as High Commander Zek-Talon initiated his assault with the kind of overwhelming force that had crushed resistance across 12 star systems. Energy bolts erupted from his forearm weapons in precise, calculated patterns, each shot capable of vaporizing armored vehicles. His targeting systems painted probability cones across the arena floor, mathematical certainty guiding every discharge. Maya simply wasn't there anymore. Where a moment before she had stood stretching casually, now only empty space remained. Zek-Talon's optical sensors struggled to track movement that shouldn't have been possible for a bipedal organism without mechanical enhancement. His targeting computers cycled through rapid recalibrations, searching for lock-on signatures that kept vanishing between sensor sweeps. She appeared behind him, somehow having crossed 30 meters of open arena without triggering a single motion detector. Zek-Talon spun, his bio-armor adjusting defensive postures with millisecond precision. Energy weapons charged and fired, filling the air with lethal discharge patterns. The shots passed through spaces Maya had occupied nanoseconds before, striking arena walls with thunderous impacts that sent spectators scrambling for better cover. "Your targeting systems are impressive," Maya commented conversationally, her voice coming from a position that should have been impossible given the trajectory mathematics. "But they're designed for conventional warfare, aren't they?" Zek-Talon's mandibles ground together as his tactical analysis protocols failed to provide useful data. Every movement pattern this human demonstrated violated established principles of physics and biology. Her acceleration curves made no sense. Her directional changes defied momentum conservation. His advanced combat computers, programmed with the fighting styles of 1,000 conquered species, had no framework for processing her actions. Maya picked up a piece of arena debris, some sort of decorative metal fragment that had been knocked loose during the initial exchange. She examined it with the casual interest of someone selecting produce at a market, then launched it with a simple underhanded motion. The projectile struck Zek-Talon's left shoulder joint with surgical precision, finding the exact interface between armor plates where his biosuit's adaptive systems created a necessary gap for articulation. Defensive shields that could deflect military-grade explosives proved useless against a chunk of decorative aluminum thrown by hand. Sparks erupted from damaged systems as his left-arm weapon array went offline. "How?" Zek-Talon demanded, his voice carrying the first notes of something that might have been concern. His right arm compensated, energy discharges tracking Maya's movements with desperate intensity. Maya rolled behind an arena pillar, the structure providing temporary cover as energy bolts carved smoking gouges in reinforced composite materials. But instead of remaining defensive, she began moving toward him, using terrain features and debris with tactical awareness that his military training recognized but couldn't counter. A thrown piece of arena equipment disabled his right shoulder actuator. A ricocheted metal fragment damaged his optical targeting array. Each strike demonstrated intimate knowledge of Zerathian bio-armor weaknesses that should have been classified military secrets. In the observation deck, betting pools were experiencing rapid recalculation. Several Nexus traders were frantically adjusting odds as their probability matrices encountered data points that broke established algorithms. The Korvash delegates had stopped praying and started taking detailed notes. Even the normally unflappable hegemony representatives were leaning forward in their environmental suits, their atmospheric recyclers working overtime. Zek-Talon activated his emergency combat protocols, flooding his system with combat stimulants and overriding safety limitations on his remaining weapons. His bio-armor shifted to full assault configuration, sacrificing defensive capability for maximum offensive output. Maya had closed to within 10 meters and was still advancing. For the first time in 3 centuries of warfare, High Commander Zek-Talon experienced something his species had nearly forgotten: the possibility of defeat by a supposedly inferior opponent. The human was smiling. Maya's assault became something beautiful and terrible to witness. Each movement flowed into the next with mechanical precision, her primitive equipment transformed into surgical instruments through applications of leverage, timing, and anatomical knowledge that defied conventional military doctrine. Zek-Talon's remaining energy weapon fired in desperate bursts, each shot missing by margins calculated in millimeters. Maya moved through his firing solutions like water through a net, exploiting gaps in coverage that his tactical systems couldn't even identify. When his weapon overheated from rapid discharge, she used the cooling cycle timing to close distance, placing herself inside his optimal engagement range where his heavy weapons became liabilities rather than advantages. Your species conquered 12 systems, Maya observed, ducking under a clumsy swing from his bio-enhanced arm, but you never fought anyone who fought back effectively, did you? In the observation deck, Quarth's claws flew across his datapad as he accessed deeper files on human military history. What he found made his secondary stomach lurch with recognition. Captain Maya Blackwood, formerly Major Blackwood of the Terran Special Operations Command, veteran of the Luna Colony Uprising, the Mars Siege, and something called the Asteroid Belt Pacification Campaign. 23 years of continuous combat experience against human opponents. The files described conflicts where advanced technology faced guerrilla tactics, where superior firepower met adaptive strategy, and where military doctrine encountered opponents who refused to fight according to established rules. Humans, it appeared, had spent centuries perfecting the art of defeating technologically superior forces through improvisation, psychological warfare, and what their files euphemistically termed unconventional combat applications. The problem with energy weapons, Maya continued conversationally, jamming a piece of arena debris into Zek-Talon's cooling vent, is they require power systems. Complex power systems. Lots of moving parts. Sparks erupted from his chest unit as thermal regulation failed. His bioarmor began overheating, protective systems cycling into emergency shutdown modes to prevent catastrophic failure. The elegant technological marvel that had dominated battlefields across multiple star systems was being systematically dismantled by someone with a few pieces of scrap metal and an intimate understanding of engineering failure points. Zek-Talon stumbled, his movements becoming erratic as combat stimulants battled system malfunctions. His optical sensors flickered between normal vision and emergency backup modes, creating a strobe effect that further disoriented his targeting capability. Your armor adapts to threats, Maya noted, circling him with predatory patience, but it was designed to adapt to energy weapons, projectile weapons, conventional military threats. It doesn't know what to do with improvised attacks using environmental materials. The psychological dimension of her assault became apparent as she maintained casual conversation throughout the combat. Each comment demonstrated superior tactical knowledge, each observation revealed weaknesses he hadn't known he possessed. She wasn't just defeating him physically, she was dismantling his confidence, his understanding of combat, his fundamental assumptions about military superiority. Quarth's research revealed the terrifying truth: humans had evolved not as apex predators, but as persistence hunters. They didn't overpower prey through superior strength or natural weapons. They exhausted it, outlasted it, adapted to its defenses, until it had no options remaining except surrender or death. Maya could have killed Zek-Talon a dozen times during the engagement. The files showed her capable of lethal precision with improvised weapons, trained in 17 different methods of disabling armored opponents. Instead, she systematically removed his advantages while leaving him alive to witness his own tactical dissolution. Zek-Talon's bioarmor finally failed completely, servos locking as power systems cascaded into emergency shutdown. He collapsed to one knee, breathing heavily, his proud technological advantages reduced to an expensive metal shell. Maya stood 3 meters away, holding a piece of arena debris that could have easily penetrated his skull through the optical sensor housing. "Yield," she suggested gently, her tone holding no mockery, no triumph, only practical assessment of tactical reality. The arena fell silent, except for the hum of energy barriers and the wheeze of Zek-Talon's labored breathing. 500 of the galaxy's most sophisticated beings watched a primitive human demonstrate that technological superiority meant nothing against an opponent who refused to fight conventionally. In that moment of crystalline clarity, every species present understood the same terrible truth: humanity hadn't joined galactic civilization as supplicants seeking advancement. They had arrived as predators evaluating new hunting grounds, and they were very, very good at what they did. Commander Zek-Talon remained motionless for several long moments, processing the tactical reality of his situation. His bioarmor systems ran diagnostic cycles that confirmed what his military experience already understood: a complete operational failure against an opponent using primitive equipment and improvised tactics. "Yield?" he said finally, the word carrying 3 centuries of undefeated pride being carefully set aside. "I yield." Maya immediately stepped forward, her casual demeanor returning as if the preceding combat had been a minor scheduling inconvenience. "Here, let me help you up. That armor looks heavy when the power systems fail." She extended a hand with the same friendliness she might offer to someone who had dropped their datapad. Zek-Talon stared at the gesture, his tactical computer struggling to process the concept of assistance from a victorious opponent. In Zerethian military tradition, defeat typically preceded either death or extended subjugation. "You require medical attention?" Maya asked, examining his armor systems with obvious technical knowledge. "I can patch some of these cooling failures temporarily, get you mobile until proper maintenance support arrives." The gesture stunned him more than the combat defeat. She began helping him to his feet, supporting his weight as disabled servos made movement difficult. Her hands worked efficiently at emergency armor releases, providing ventilation and reducing system stress with practiced familiarity. The bone dress, Zek-Talon managed, his pride demanding answers even in defeat. What did those creatures do to deserve such remembrance? Maya glanced down at the discarded ensemble with mild nostalgia. "Oh, those? Each piece represents a species that underestimated human capabilities. The bear thought our camping team looked like easy prey. The tiger decided our research station was in its territory. The crocodile, well, it lived in waters we needed to cross. The implications settled over the observation deck like a toxic cloud." Korth's mandibles clicked rapidly as he updated his species threat assessment protocols. Every bone in that dress represented a predator that had made the same tactical errors Zek-Talon just committed, assuming humans were prey rather than fellow predators. Around the arena, diplomatic delegations huddled in urgent conferences. Emergency communications flowed to home governments as trade agreements, territorial negotiations, and military assessments underwent rapid revision. The hegemony representatives were already requesting immediate audience with their High Council. Several Nexus trading houses began calculating the market implications of humanity's actual capabilities. Korth accessed his species' military doctrine files, cross-referencing human capabilities against Zerathian expansion protocols. The results suggested that their proud conquest of 12-star systems might represent the absolute limit of their territorial ambitions. Further expansion in any direction now occupied by human interests would require very careful diplomatic consideration. Maya helped Zek-Talon to the arena exit, chatting casually about armor maintenance and cooling system optimization. At the threshold, she turned back to the observation deck with a bright smile. "Anyone interested in dinner? I know a great place that serves actual Earth cuisine. Fair warning, though, I'll probably be wearing the dress again. It's my favorite formal outfit." The invitation hung in the air like a friendly threat. Korth realized that galactic diplomacy had just become significantly more complicated. Korth watched Maya slip back into her bone dress with the same casual efficiency she had demonstrated in combat. Each piece clicked into place with soft, rhythmic sounds that now carried entirely different implications. What had appeared to be primitive decoration revealed itself as psychological warfare of the highest caliber. She paused at the observation deck entrance, addressing the assembled delegates with the bright smile of someone who had just resolved a minor administrative issue. "For the record." "The record," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the arena's acoustics. "I followed the dress code perfectly. The invitation specified formal attire representing my cultural background. This dress represents exactly what my species has become: survivors who adapt, overcome, and remember." The cosmic implications settled over the diplomatic community like gravitational collapse. Humanity hadn't violated protocol or misunderstood civilized behavior. They had announced their true nature with terrifying precision. Maya's heels clicked against the arena floor as she departed, the bone dress creating a percussion rhythm that echoed through the suddenly silent space. Each step broadcast the same message to every species present: underestimate humans at your own risk. Korth's claws moved across his datapad, composing the emergency diplomatic communication that would reshape his civilization's foreign policy. The message was simple, urgent, and desperately necessary. Recommend immediate alliance negotiations with human territories. Alternative outcomes inadvisable. Around him, similar communications flowed from every delegation present. The galaxy's power structure was experiencing rapid recalibration as 500 civilizations simultaneously realized they had misjudged Earth's newest species by several orders of magnitude. The humans didn't wear armor because they had evolved beyond the need for external protection. They had become something infinitely more dangerous. Adaptive predators who turned any environment, any technology, any situation into tactical advantage. Maya's laughter echoed from the corridor outside, warm and genuinely friendly, carrying the promise of either wonderful alliance or terrible opposition. The choice, thankfully, remained theirs to make. For now,